guys. Welcome to the last full week of this semester and your last writing assignment, which is the Argumentation Essay. I have placed in your module the link to a chapter on how to write an argumentation essay. I have asked you to read that chapter. I've also placed an assignment sheet, a handout on the essay, giving you the deadline and also just strategies for writing the essay in the same module. And now what I want to do is to take you through a PowerPoint presentation of an example of an essay that I might write for this assignment. So let's go through this example together. Okay, so let's say that I decided that I was going to write on how Americans' poor diet choices have caused health problems. So we have these existing health problems that are directly linked to our poor choices of diet. And so I might use, as an example, move this down a little bit. So I might use as one example, as my topic example, that I have decided to write about how Americans' poor diet choices have led to an increase in many health problems. So my essay then is going to address the recommendations that I want to make, the solutions that I see to this problem. So the first thing I have to do is establish the problem itself. So that's going to comprise the first part of my essay. And then I will recommend a series of solutions. And I will base my argument, and I address this in the handout that's in week 14, the week 14 module. I will build my argument primarily based on the facts and statistics that I've gathered through my research. That will provide the primary basis. I also mentioned in the handout that a good way to put a human face on the problem and to use remember we've talked about our 3 appeals that you use when making your argument: pathos, logos, and ethos. You establish your ethos or your credibility in this essay by using your secondary sources, by using facts and statistics to make your argument, and then of course by documenting those, the use of those statistics and those facts by documenting using MLA citations. You use logos by using facts and statistics in your argument. And then you can also use pathos by perhaps telling a story of somebody, by putting kind of a human face, an anecdote, or telling a story as one of your examples. So for example, with this topic, I might use an example from my own life, or an anecdote that I run across in one of my sources when I did my research. That would sort of put a human face, on this issue. All right, so here's my thesis that I'm going to use here. I'm going to say in my introduction, because of poor diet choices, largely through limited access to healthy food and too easy access to fast food and processed food, Americans have become increasingly unhealthy. The diseases and health conditions that are becoming more prevalent and dangerous in Americans are heart disease, stroke, diabetes, and some cancers linked to poor diet. And so here's going to be my thesis, right, at the end of that introduction. To combat these trends, Americans need to make drastic changes to their diets through eating more food grown locally, seeking healthier choices when eating out, buying organic food instead of processed food, and considering growing some of their own food. So those are my recommendations to address this problem of poor health, or these health conditions resulting from poor diet choices. All right, so first I need to establish the problem. So my first task is to convince my readers that this problem exists. And obviously I'm going to use the statistics that I've gathered and facts that I've gathered from my research, right? So in my first few paragraphs, I'm going to document the health conditions that are the leading killers in the U.S. and then their links to poor diet. So for example, heart disease has been linked to fat, heavy diets, too many fried foods, too much meat, the sodium, high sodium content of fast food and processed food, and also too much sugar, sugar-heavy diets. High blood pressure, which causes strokes. Again, this is linked to fat-heavy diets, alcohol consumption, sodium and processed food. Some cancers have been linked to carcinogens in processed foods and also sugar-heavy diets. So I've documented the problems, right? I've used my research to show that this problem exists. I've given the statistics on, the numbers of Americans that die from heart disease every year, increasing obesity among children, linked to diabetes, and so on. I've established, that this is a genuine problem, and I've used the research that I've done. I've used my secondary sources that I've found during my research. I've used that as evidence to establish that this problem exists. Now I need to recommend my solutions. So I need to consider the order I want to use to make my argument convincing and effective. I'm going to choose to place my most emphatic argument last. So here's how I'm going to lay out my argument. First of all, I'm going to start with what I think is the easiest change to make, okay? The least drastic change. And that's how I'm going to go from the least drastic change or the easiest change to the final argument that I'm going to make that I think is probably the most effective but maybe the most drastic change. First of all, I'm going to say buy organic. When you go to the grocery store, this is an easy change to make. You buy more fresh food and more organic food and less processed food, right? It's healthier, it's got less sodium, it's probably going to have fewer chemicals because it's not processed, right? So one of the easiest changes to make, change your grocery buying strategies by purchasing more fresh and organic food and less processed food. Yes, organic food can be more expensive, but fresh food is on the whole less expensive than processed frozen meals, canned foods, or boxed food products. And I'm going to give some examples. Okay? I'm going to place this recommendation first because it's the easiest change to make. It's the easiest one to implement. So the second easiest recommendation, the second point, is just make healthier choices in restaurants. If you have to go out if you have to eat at fast food restaurants because they're cheaper or more convenient, they're faster, then choose the fast food restaurants that offer healthier choices, right? So I might talk about even something like Panera Bread, right, which is pretty fast and you can get takeout. Or, other restaurants, other fast food places that have consciously added healthier choices, maybe Chick-fil-A, maybe Wendy's, and so on. But, I'm going to write about these and how they might be better choices for fast food because they offer more healthy selections. or even other fast food places like McDonald's have added healthier choices to their menu. And so I would give those examples. But better still, I would say here, try to patronize local restaurants. They may take a little longer, they may cost a little more, but generally they offer healthier selections overall. And even better, if you can find local restaurants that buy their ingredients from local farmers, you're supporting the local food growth industry, you're supporting your local businesses and your community, and that's always a good thing. All right, now I'm getting to my I think more effective strategies, but they're going to be a little, going to require a little more change. So I placed them toward the end. Buy local, right? It's a more drastic change in your habits, still pretty easy to implement, but it'll pay off more, right? Begin buying more fresh food and meat from local sources. Join a food co-op that is comprised of local farmers or local providers for meat and poultry, grass-fed beef, right? Free-range chickens and eggs. Go to Saturday morning farmers markets and so on. So I'm going to say, yeah, this is more of a change. This is going to require a little more of you. But the statistics, because again, I still want to rely on my facts and my statistics. The statistics show this is going to make a big difference in your diet. It's going to be a lot healthier, and here's why. And then my last point, which is, pretty drastic, is grow your own food. Buying local and growing your own food, these are big changes in your diet, but they really pay off. Growing your own food is not that tough. You can grow tomatoes and herbs, in pots on a balcony if you have to, or your back deck or your back patio. But you can, you can create a small, like a 4x4 or 8x8 raised bed that doesn't take up much space in the family yard. And you can grow food in it all year long. There are lots of books, there are YouTube videos, there are websites on how to do it. It doesn't cost a lot, and it yields a lot of health benefits. And so giving examples from that, again, from the sources that I've read. And then I'm going to conclude my argument. Doctors and nutritionists have documented the impact that even small diet changes can have on our overall health. I'm going to give examples, right, from my research. Making the decision to change individual diets is effective, but even more effective would be for communities to come together to support local farmers and restaurants and to lessen the community's reliance on fast food. And so one thing you can do in your conclusion is you can sort of look beyond your paper and say, here's what I'm recommending to this, for this particular problem or dilemma. And you could even take another step and do this. So even kind of broadening your recommendations this way. Okay? So this is an example for you to consider. Use this PowerPoint, which I will go ahead and put up, and the handout that I've given you as for your strategy for working your way through this essay. Establish the problem and then provide your solution, set of solutions. Think about the order in which you want to place them. What's going to be the most effective. I gave you some examples on the handout as well. Remember, for this last essay, you have until December 3rd, Thursday, December 3rd, which is during finals week, to get this in. If you want me to review your rough draft, that's going to be optional this time. If you want me to review your rough draft for you, get it to me by Monday the 23rd. I will take a look at it, review it, and give you some feedback. But again, that is optional this time. You don't have to have a rough draft for me by the end of this week. As always, get in touch if you have questions.